brushes today. Hello. Hi. We're talking about brushes today. That's what we're doing. We've got some brushes on the bench, got some brushes by the solder station, have brushes by the cleanup. We've got all kinds of brushes. All kinds of brushes.
Bite me.
We're doing. All righty. So, hey, brushes. Wait, where's mine? There you go. What? Brushes. So, yes, let's see. Can you keep an eye on the chat? See if anybody has any questions or want to pipe in. So, hi, everybody. It's me, Jennifer, Little Metal Foxes. And
Julia, also from Little Metal Foxes.
that's right. So today we've got a whole bench full of brushes to talk to you guys about. And Julia, you just shared a really cool tip with me that I had never considered. And you are a freaking genius most of the time. And this is one of those examples. So we've got a couple of brushes to share with you guys and how to adapt one of them if you need to, or two of them, and talk about some of the other brushes that are kind of important in the studio. So what's your bench brush that you were just showing there?
This one. I think I got this one. This one says Germany on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I imagine I got it. I probably got it from Rio or possibly from TSI.
Okay.
It's very, very old, which makes sense because a bench brush like this is probably not going to wear out in your lifetime because you're not really doing, like hard brushing stuff with it.
Right. And this is designed primarily for your tray or your sweep
It's
drawer.
for sweeping out your sweeps drawer, your bench tray, right?
Yeah.
But I know, I know there are jewelers like Joan Tenenbaum who did a lot of work up in Alaska, and she actually uses a bird wing.
Oh yeah.
As her brush, right?
Right. Yeah.
I have cat fur all over my face. My cat was helping.
Well, in the printmaking world, one of the things that you're using as a brush in like your acid when you're doing etching is like a turkey wing or a duck wing.
Right. To brush the bubbles away from
yes. Yeah. Because it's resistant to most of the acids and will last a long time. And so that is also why with and I'm going to switch my camera over here so you can see. Where's there we go. Switch my camera over here and I'll show you. There you go. Aha. So one of the flux brushes that's been around for ages are these things. And these are a quill brush.
Spotlight yourself. I guess there are only two of us in the video call, we can't spotlight ourselves, can we?
Let's see if I can. No, but here we go. So just two of us. You can act cute and react. So yeah, there's the quill brush. And so the cool thing about these is they're natural bristle and they're made with like a pin feather duck wing quill. And these are great for flux because the ferrule is made out of a natural material rather than something like the metal ferrule. And the reason that's important, like the metal ferrule on most paintbrushes, a lot of people use these for flux. And the problem is that over time, because the flux is an acid-based material, it'll eat up a lot of the ferrule, the metal ferrules.
Yeah.
And so then your bristles fall out. But the problem is that because there's, little bits of like, plating on that, or they're made out of steel, they will start to rust, and those little bits of rust can fall into your flux when you're soldering, and then that gets
not good.
And so it's a little thing that most people don't have any problems with, but sometimes if you have a really rusty flux brush, that can be problematic. So these are kind of old school.
And you have a rusty ferrule on your flux brush.
Yes.
Try changing either to a flux brush that has no metal, or
yes. I have a plastic one around here too. I don't know where I put it, but yeah, you can get these.
What I use.
Yeah, and plastic as well. I don't know where that one went, but just had it in front of me. So yes, the plastic ones work really well. but I really kind of like the natural bristle ones like this. This is really kind of nice. So the other thing I will do, because it just comes like when you get them, and I think I've had mine for a long time. I don't go through them very fast. And I
Mhm.
think they come in like a 3-pack or a 6-pack, but they basically come kind of like that. So these are really nice little natural flux brushes. And then I just use like a skewer
Mhm.
to add a handle.
Plastic.
So that's all those need.
I think I have the plastic version of that.
Yeah.
That I think I got them in a package of like 6 from
Yeah.
Rio. And eventually, because I'm really bad, I'm a bad person when my flex brush, I stir my flex with my flex brush, which you should never do because what it does is it breaks the bristles off of the flex brush. But I do it because I'm like, well, whatever. So my flex brush has gotten down to it has like 2 bristles on it. So I need to switch out to it. I just recently switched out to a new one of those. So
Yeah. I'll usually end up using like the brush handle to do
yeah.
that. But in my studio, I've got a glass like stirring rod. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, so I just use this and it just like nothing sticks to it. So it's really kind of nice.
I
Um,
mean, glass or plastic or wood, just don't stir it with anything.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So my dentist gave me a studio brush the other day. I was really happy about that.
Nice.
So, yeah. So any little, and these are super soft bristles. These are kind of nice to have to get into little details. For my bench brush though, that's my go-to. And this is an old Daniel Smith brush. I really like it because it's just a super nice light Paclon brush.
So it's
So
super soft. Yeah.
yeah,
It's super soft and it has lots of very fine bristles. Like that's one of the disadvantages of this one is it's a little
yeah.
coarse. I feel like sometimes the really fine stuff it doesn't sweep up as well.
Right. That's one of the reasons I like this one with the Taclon because it's so soft. I can get like under edges with it really well.
Yeah.
A lot of times if I lose a small stone or something, I can't quite, get to it. And I can use that to kind of really scoot under edges and up against really fine stuff. So this one is one of my go-tos for that. But I do have,
Cut the handle off to make it a little more maneuverable in your bench.
yeah. So I don't need and if you want to hang it, some people will drill a hole. And so they just have like a little, sweep brush. But I've also got a couple of old makeup brushes that I love. This one just, I usually use this one for wax. And this one I'm usually using for wax too, Japanese sumi brush. And I love this one because it is, again, it's a natural brush, which is nice, but it's great for sweeping up little wax parts. So those
I
are
was
kind
going
of
to ask you what you basically just use it to clean up all the crumbs from carving.
Yeah, and I will use them like when I'm working on a surface, this one especially. I'll use this one too when I'm trying to transfer my design.
Mhm.
I'll use a little bit of talc to transfer it
Mhm.
into my low-lying areas. And so this
Oh,
one I will kind of brush the talc in
yeah.
to my waxes. So I'm usually using that. And I can feel a little residue of the talc in that one. But those work really well because they're nice and soft and don't scratch my wax, which is
Right. So you keep like that sumi brush, that really you kind of use it just for the talc. So you don't want it to contaminate. You don't want it contaminated with anything else, right? You want it to stay
and
soft.
nothing, well, yeah, but nothing else really sticks to it very well. So it's just, yeah, if I'm sweeping up little bits of wax and sweeping around, a little bit of talc, that works really well. At the cleanup station, though, we were talking about these 2 brushes. So the brass bristle brush, and the nylon brushes. And I'll say that this is one of my favorite brushes. And you were saying that, there's nothing better than a brand new.
The luxury of a fresh brass bristle brush because the bristles are so soft and shiny and new and it's just such a
so
pleasure.
good. Yeah.
It's so good. I mean, because tangled over time, which is totally normal. They're consumables.
Yes.
You
This one has started to crack down the back and they get old. And this one's getting old. And we're going to show you a tip here in a second. But when they are super soft, and that's really what you want to go for, the really, really soft ones, not a hard, scratchy one. But use these with a little dish soap to lubricate the surface.
And water. Yeah, this is why they fall apart because
dish soap and water.
They've got all this water. You use them always with water. So
right.
Yeah. But yeah, you really need to get them from a jewelry supply place, because you want the ones that have the super fine bristles. They're like less than 30 gauge wire. They're very fine. The ones that you can get that are called platers brushes or detailing brushes, even if they're brass, the wires are much thicker, and so they can be used in the
That's
studio.
scratchy.
They will leave marks on your metal. They're not
Right.
going to polish. They're going to leave a scratched finish.
Well, and don't use these with an abrasive either. That's the other. So some people like to use these, or they're like, oh yeah, there's the pumice. There's the,
You said that in the Instagram that people use it with the pumice. I'm like, who does that? What crazy
a lot of intro students, they'll see the pumice, sitting by the sink at the school, and they're like, oh, well, I'm supposed to use this with pumice and scrub the oxides off the surface.
Oh no.
Use the plastic bristles for that. Because the pumice and the abrasives will wear down this brush really quickly. And so a lot of times you'll see, if you go into some of the schools or places that teach jewelry, you'll see some of these just completely ground down.
Now it makes sense, because I'm teaching at North and at Pratt. I never knew how the brass brushes would get in that.
That's what happens.
Okay, because it never occurred to me to do that. And I obviously wasn't paying attention, didn't see a student doing it. So thank you for finally solving and illuminating that mystery for me.
Yes, exactly. So use these just with like a liquid soap and water when you're cleaning your surface. And they'll burnish down the material. So
right. You don't need
abrasive.
No abrasive. And you also don't need to do it in between every single, like if you have multiple solderings and picklings, don't brass brush between every single one, because you wear out your brass brush and they're not cheap.
Yeah.
Use that with a little bit of pumice to clean it.
Yeah, absolutely. So these work great for that. Or like a fingernail brush works great.
Yes.
One of my other favorite brushes is this one. Whoa, hang on. Is this one. I forgot to bring it over here. This one.
Oh, that's cool.
Do you know what this is?
Is it for cleaning like a night guard or dentures?
It's for dentures. It's a denture brush. And these are fantastic because they've got like a little grip and little thumb things, because people like, scrub real hard. But the cool thing is that they've got really long bristles on one side, and they're really stiff bristles. So these are fantastic, and they're very inexpensive. You can get them obviously at the drugstore or in any drugstore near you, but they're great denture brushes, and
into corners and down in.
But you can have like little grips, so you can like and scrub down real hard. Grips on them, which is really cool.
I'm at the face.
So yeah, just like a tiny fingernail brush, so you can kind of like that. So really good for I use this one primarily to get investment out of my castings.
Sure.
Because it really does like reach down inside stuff and really clean stuff out. So if you need something to get kind of deep and be a little more aggressive about cleaning something out,
but this is not metal, because you don't want to get in
the perfect choice.
Yes, it's the perfect choice.
This is the perfect choice for that. So yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so for cleaning up stuff like that, these can be really, really good. Or just any little toothbrush is great for that too. This one, I love this. This is like any little bottle brush will work great because they have like this little pipe cleanery end on them. So if you're trying to get like into like tube settings or into little nooks and crannies, this can be a
fantastic. Inside a bale.
Yeah, inside bales. These can be really good to kind of do that inside scrubbing. So if you have a little like a little bottle, like a little straw cleaner works really well too. This one actually came from, oh God, I've had this around for a million years, because it would come with like hair dye, or like putting the hair dye into
see, because it can repurpose. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it has like a little finger grip right there, so you can like put your finger in or your thumb so it doesn't roll. But or old mascara brushes work really well. But these are really good for getting into, little, like I said, nooks and crannies and cleaning out stuff. Like, if you have like a little areas that are too small for some of the bigger brushes to get into. So
I love the idea of repurposing a mascara brush for cleaning.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I mean, that's what I did with this. Is a makeup brush, right?
Yeah.
blush brush on it. And I use it to brush away lemon when I'm saw piercing.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I use. Like that nice soft Taklon brushes are great for that. So I usually have like one of those handy
Right.
when I'm sawing, just exactly for that purpose. So I can brush stuff out of the way. So yes. But one of the things you had mentioned earlier that I want to work out now is you said that with these, what you do, what's your trick for this when it starts to
Well, so
disintegrate,
most of those brushes, it's that end, it's the front end that gets to, at least in my case, the front end starts to go first, right? It's like it's always the wettest, and it's the bristles that get tangled the most. And so the heel part is usually a little softer. And so I'm always wanting to try to use the heel, but then the front part's in the way. But you can cut it off, right? So if the front part is all tangled and gross, and if the bristles are starting to fall out, which they are, just cut it off and make it shorter, and then you'll have a shorter brush, and you can buy yourself a new one, so you have a long one too. So then you have more than one.
Yeah. So I'm just going to use this is a spiral blade.
Perfect.
I use for wax. So a coarse blade. And
fast and big because it's wood, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the spiral blades are great for cutting soft materials like wax and wood and plastics and resins and things like that. So just gonna
you're always going to lose the end. Like I would probably cut sort of, down because if you try to cut between the rows, the endmost row is going to fall off. So if you cut down the middle of a row, of the last row that you don't want to keep, then that one will fall off, but it will leave a little bit of meat to hold.
So I can actually see this one is starting to come out a little bit.
Yeah.
Here, not in between.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my line right there.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to saw that. And you see how fast I
know. And particularly because the wood that the handles are made of, it's not, they're consumables, right? So the wood is not oak, right? It's not some really nice wood. It's softer, which unfortunately means that it absorbs more water, and then, it holds water down. You should always shake your brass brush out. But even if you do, because I always shake mine out, there's always enough water held in the bristles, and then it drips down into the wooden part, so they get waterlogged,
Yes. So so that's going to come apart in between those bristles. And then I can just take those guys off.
Right.
Perfect. And
now you can get at the last little one. It's going to be good.
Yeah. So I can take that one off, I think. There we go. All right. So, and I've got a real coarse file here. And just taking my coarse file.
Here, round off the corners a little bit so you don't.
Yeah, I'm rounding it a little bit.
So you're not exactly repurposing, you're just getting more juice out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But sometimes it can be helpful to have a shorter brush.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, why not? Well, it's so irritating when all your bristles are falling out the front.
Especially if they start to catch in things, and then it pulls out, and then you have this big tuft of, grass stuck to you. Yeah. Nice. Looking good.
Well, that is. So so I've got a shorter little brush, doot for cleaning. So fantastic. And I've got a new one over there by the bench. And
you have
this is great
to show people what they look like.
Brand new one? No, I don't. It's relatively newer. It's newer. So relatively newer, but so I just cut it down.
I do have one.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's beautiful.
All right. So look at this. This is brand new in the bag.
Well, that's just sexy as hell.
I know, because soft.
Yeah. So this is,
soft it is.
It's so soft and fluffy. Look at it. It's beautiful.
Fluffy, and all the bristles are straight. And then, they start to tangle. And once they start to tangle, then they harden too as they get bent.
Yeah.
But once they're starting to tangle, then they make like a hard little knot.
Yeah.
And you're like
Yeah.
scraping with a
Well,
hard little
on this end, it's all, yeah.
right. It's all tangled and gross.
So, yeah. But, you know,
Yeah. So yeah, definitely always wet and with dish soap.
right. So, yeah, but this will last me another, year as it is. Because all the wood was cracking on the front half.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can see it's, just splitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this will last me a while and get me through, some smaller stuff. And so, yeah. So why not? Absolutely. So yeah. Change up your brush.
Change up your brush.
Salvage, because the front part
always use it with soap.
sucks. The back part works great. So there you go. But
Always use it with soap, because if you brush it without dish soap, you can transfer the brass onto your
right.
and you don't want to do that.
The other thing, do you have a sweeps container or a sweeps catch?
I don't. I always end up
like a dustpan. Do you have a dustpan that's your
I
favorite?
have a little small plastic one, but it's pretty big even. And what I end up doing is taking the whole bench pan out, which is always a little inconvenient and, a bit awkward, because I'm trying to like hold it over the waste basket and then sweep out. Yeah.
Right. Well, I've got a solution for you, Julia.
Okay. Show me.
So I was making a little dust collector earlier. I'm continuing to tweak it, but making a little like bench scoop.
Scoopula.
Yeah, little bench scoop. So you could use a piece of tubing that you're like cutting and flattening out the front. But I actually did this with just taking a piece of copper and using and just sort of rolling the ends using my swage block, rolling the ends to make tubing.
Okay.
So I'll switch back over to my camera so I can show you this.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. So there's this. So aha. So what I did, you can see it has a little bit of a whoop to it. So that way I can hold it like at the bench, right? So I can hold it at a little bit of an angle and get my fingers underneath it. But I can use my little brushes to sweep up little bits. So if I've got little pearls or beads or little limel in my pan, I can sweep up these little guys. And if you've got, like a smaller brush that you're kind of like, all these little parts, I can't pick them all up. So you can actually make it so it's relatively thin. This is about 22 gauge. And so I'm able to sort of sweep them up, but then to get all those beads back in the bag.
Nice.
Right. So a lot of my, all of the little, dust bin collectors, little, sweep things. It's hard to sort of like get this corner into a bag so everything rolls right down. So what I did on this was I have some edges that keep it, kind of like keep everything directed.
Right.
But it's square so I can get into the corners.
Yes.
Right. So and sweep stuff up. And you can even put like a little roll over like a dustpan has, so things won't roll back out once you sweep, but just kind of containing them and rolling it back like that. And then it turns into a funnel. So it funnels it right into the bag.
That is brilliant. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah.
You can flip that out, because that is the kind of fox you are. You're like, I need a thing. And I'm just with this piece of copper that I have in my studio.
It's not a piece of old copper that I had for a sample, but this makes it real easy just to kind of be like boop boop doop. Oh, there's one. Boop boop boop. So if I got any scrap metal, boop, there we go.
Sweet.
Into a bag or into my my little bin. So this makes it real easy to kind of find all those little parts and get underneath things, and because it's teeny tiny. And if you've got just you can get like little bench sweepers from places like the dollar store that are like little dustpans and that are teeny tiny, that have like this size brush and a tiny little dust.
That's what I have, but it's still a little big for the top of my bench because I have a lot of things on the top of my bench. And so a smaller setup like that would fit. Yeah.
So these work great.
Dollar store dustpan. It's probably
Oh, yeah.
And so it's fine for the floor, but it's not so great for my bench.
So one of the other things I like to do is trim my brushes down.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So for makeup, it's fine, with that point. But if I'm trying to sweep up the bench, I may want to have a little bit better,
a little flatter
surface.
Look at you. Damn. Here we were just talking about apropos of Jeff DeBoer's class about modifying and tweaking and dressing your tools. And here you are dressing your brushes.
Well, and so for this, if I want to be able to get into a corner, I might want to have a sharper edge on one side, right?
Yeah.
That helps me get into
the angled brooms.
Right, exactly. Like it's a tiny angled broom. So, with this, it was like the middle was the longest. So now it's pushing that stuff out into my bench. So it's just the perfect width for this. Boop, boop, boop.
You can use it to sweep up all the bits that you just cut.
Yeah. Boop, ba-doop, ba-doop. There we go. All swept up. Here we go. And so I'll empty that right into the trash. So anyway, but there you go. There's my tips on brushes and
Excellent.
Your tips on brushes. And we've got some updates.
I will add one last thing.
Oh, sure.
That like the lemel that you get from sawing or from working wax, right? Like that's going to be on your bench, right? Because you need to be able to see that. But if you're doing a lot of polishing and stuff, especially with a flex shaft, you should really figure out some kind of containment mechanism so that you're not spraying that crap all over your studio, because you will spend a week sweeping up all the little, bits of rouge or whatever that you've sprayed all over the studio. So don't spray it out.
Right. Well, the other thing you can do with my bench sweeps is I've got this.
Yes, but that's after you've swept them up.
Yes. So this is for bench sweeps, and if I vacuum the floor, if I'm cleaning the studio, if I'm the rouge wheels,
anything that might have precious metals on it.
Yeah.
Sandpaper,
all that.
Blow your nose goes in there.
Yeah. So that is great for all of those things because they all contain little particles of precious metal. Hoover and Strong will recycle that. They'll send you that box for free, and you can send it back for like next to nothing. I think it comes with the shipping paper to send it back. So so all my little sweeps go into that. And we have actually at Baleen, where I'm a bench jeweler, we have a Roomba. And so the Roomba is really good at sweeping up all the dust. I mean, the really small dust.
Right.
All that stuff right into the Hoover and Strong box.
Yep. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep.
There you go.
Yes. So, new things coming up. So we just had the amazing Jeff DeBoer do a class on Saturday on practical chasing. So he's the one who makes armor for cats and mice and was featured in National Geographic. And because he does such accurate historical reproductions, like when he does his Persian mouse, got the Persian thing going on. So if you missed that and you still want to watch that, like you can't come to the live class because the live class already happened. But if you wanted to buy access to the video for the month, it's going to be available for a month from Saturday. So you would have almost a month to watch it. You can do that. So, because we want people to be able to see his amazing work. And he did a really wonderful 3-hour demonstration.
So good. Well, and the demonstration included his basically, the anatomy of what's actually happening, like really breaking it down so you understand what the tool is doing to the metal and how it works. So he really broke it down so you understand that. as well as, the process itself. But he talked about his process for design, which is really important. And I know a few people had like revelations and epiphanies during that process, because they were like, this solves so many problems as far as how he, makes the model that he's building on, how he gets those pieces figured out, how he lays out the pattern for the plates that he's going to be adding, how that works, what that looks like. So going from, like figuring out how big this is going to be to working on a flat pattern and then transferring it and getting it round. So all of those things combined end up making these beautiful pieces, and they're really good solutions anytime you're working on something that you need to be round and fit parts to.
Right. It looks, the pieces all come together perfectly, and it looks like, oh, well, of course they do, but it's so non-trivial to make things match on the edges that are not flat, right? Like put some flat pieces together.
All about the planning.
Yeah, exactly.
All about the planning that goes into it. And one of the other things I thought that was really cool is he was showing how it's like, this is the actual size. And then I have to know how, what the shape is exactly to get the layout, the pattern. And then he'll blow that up so he can do all the drawing, and then he'll shrink it back down.
Nice. Okay.
Right size when he's working on it. And I'm like, very smart. Because I would just be like working on it like this big, and he's like, no, just blow it up, and then you get all the details and fine tune it, and then shrink it back down, and you're good to go. And using like transparencies to get mirror images. So Jeff, he's very smart. He also covered the making of one of the chasing tools that he's using, which is the liner, which is basically his, as he refers to it, as his Stradivarius, that he does all of the kind of the lining and layout for all of the repoussé that he does, or the chasing that he does. So so that was really fascinating, because he went through the shaping, the work hardening of those tools. And you've got a class coming up on
I do. I'm going to be doing, and we planned it this way specifically because of this, because we knew people were going to go and watch Jeff's class and then be interested in maybe making or adapting, because this is one of the things Jeff talked about in the tooltip that we did with him recently, is that even if you buy really good quality, I mean, there are some very beautiful and very high quality chasing tools out there on the market, but even if you spend the money on the really good ones, you may, as you're working, whatever the design is you're doing, find that none of the punches exactly fits the need that you have in the moment. And so being able to make a new tool that suits your need, or adapt an existing tool to fit exactly what you need, is really important to being able to continue that journey for your piece.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be teaching a class on making, chasing, and string tools. Sorry?
Yeah. If a piece wears down, if it breaks, if you've got to adapt it, because one of the things he was talking about is like, well, this one's too small, so I'll make another one. And well, that one's, I need something bigger, and so you make a bigger one. And then you're like, well, this is too big and this is too small, so you have to make like a medium size one. Like,
you have to make the one that's just right.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever you're doing.
So being able to make the thing you need in the moment, rather than, and sometimes what you need is not commercially available.
Right. And this is why chasers, if you know anybody who's a chaser, have dozens, hundreds of chasing punches, because the chasers will never, as a rule, will generally not adapt an existing tool. They'll just make a new one.
Yeah.
Because the existing tool is going to be perfect for something else.
Yes. Yeah.
So they tend to not, unless there's like an edge is too sharp or something, in which case it's like, okay, this is never going to be good the way it is. I need to change, smooth this edge or something.
Yeah.
Or give themselves a thumb grip or something. There are some adaptations that you can make to get more use out of an existing tool. But they'll frequently just make a new one. And so then you'll have, your tomato paste can that's all liners of all different sizes, and there'll be 20 of them in there.
Yeah. So but he went over like the shape of the liner and why it works, and how to make it just exactly what you need it to be. So that was really good. But yeah, your class for coming up, you're going to show them how to anneal, shape, work harden the piece, and get it ready to go. So that's a good one. Also, that this weekend I'm going to be doing a puzzle fitting and marriage of metals. So doing multiple metals here, and I've got a couple that are kind of like
These are so beautiful, and
bird, and
they're so cool. And you can do so much. And then every time you cut them, like you can make more cool. You can make, every time you cut it, you make it more cool because it's like more detailed.
Yeah. So
Love
these,
that one.
yeah, I think a lot of people confuse them with like mokume. But this marriage of metals process is referred to as puzzle fitting, because you're actually like cutting out the parts and like fitting them together, so that you get, this, you can get really intricate, delicate, bold, interesting graphic images in the metal using different alloys, different carats, different, completely different metals, to get, using something like silver, nickel, and sterling, like all together side by side, you get like a gradation.
You mean fine silver?
Yeah,
so fine silver,
fine silver, sterling, and nickel.
silver, right?
Use those side by side, so you can get like, a gray, medium gray, white. So they give you like different colors. And when they're patinaed, you even get like a broader range of colors. So doing that kind of like puzzle fitting, and I usually will use shibuichi as well, to get another layer of color in there. And there's lots of alloys of shibuichi that I will use too, that will give me, subtle colors, so subtle variations in like gray tones. But this is a technique that can get really amazing, intricate graphic quality designs. I've seen people that do like Robert Farrell does these really beautiful like beach scenes, or like organic sort of like lit palm trees and leaves and things, and they're just folding around and wrapping around, and he might use 6-10 different colors of metal to create this beach scene where it has like this palm tree and shade and the ocean and the sky and clouds, and
Wow.
So literally painting with the marriage of metals technique for puzzle fitting. I really like the patterning that I can get, and using it in a little less representational way. I use it for pattern, but you can combine it with stuff like mokume. You can combine it with like all kinds of different things to get, what you need where. But yeah, that's going to be fun. Also, I've got what? Casting.
Yes, your 3-part cuttlefish casting, which I've done with you, which is cool. It's very cool, right?
Yeah. So instead of doing cuttlefish bone casting with like 2 parts, a 3-part mold gives you the opportunity to be able to add another dimension to the piece, so that you get like the stone setting and the ring all in one piece.
Right.
So
it's in one go.
Yeah. So it includes like the prongs or the bezel and the all the parts without having to solder. So I can get stuff done really quickly. And I don't have to use cuttlefish for this. I could use tufa or charcoal. I had somebody that was interested in doing this, and she's like, "Yeah, but I'm allergic to shellfish." And I was like, "You can use, charcoal or tufa or anything else that you can carve into like this and use for your 2-part or 3-part molds." But I like using cuttlefish because of the texture.
Right.
But not everybody.
I think the texture of cuttlefish is really cool, and that being able to have that on the underside of your stone setting and around the edges of the bezel, to me is additive, is an improvement. But if you're allergic to shellfish, or you don't like if you don't like the texture, you can always file it away, or you can not brush out you can pack it so that it's smooth. Right. But if you're allergic to shellfish, you really can't get around that one. You're really going to have to switch.
There are definitely advantages to working with like charcoal and tufa, because you can use the mold repeatedly. Where with the cuttlefish, it's sort of a one-time thing.
Right.
But yeah,
Is the grain of tufa, I always think of tufa as having a very coarse grain, but some of it has a quite
Oh.
fine grain.
Yeah, it's very powdery because
Okay.
it's very fine. It should be a very fine, almost like limestone finish.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I
And
mean,
then,
there are coarser ones that
right.
are
I
almost
think that's what I've seen is the coarser ones that are more like what I think of as like the fire brick. I think of tufa as like having
oh
that
yeah,
texture of
no,
fire brick. And
no, it's not as smooth as like soapstone, but it's yeah, but it's a pumice rock, so it
okay.
should be, yeah. Mine's very smooth. It's almost
And
like
can you press stuff into it or you actually have to carve?
you actually have to carve into tufa.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, you can drill into it, machine into it, carve into it with a knife or like carving tools. But you can machine into it and get really specific stuff. And it is kind of the go-to for a lot of it's been used by primitive cultures for
I think
millennia.
of it as like a Southwest.
It is still used traditionally in the American Southwest for Native American work.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, it was, different kinds of, stone, tufa, limestone have been used for,
Sure.
millennia to make all kinds of things, cast bronze pieces, axe heads, things like that. So yeah, but there's that coming up and more. So
And more. Your Mitsuru class is coming up. Helen is doing the intro to glass clay class again, which is really cool. And she was actually just showing us this morning that she's experimenting with doing kind of a mokume pattern in glass clay so that you can use different colors of glass clay and get have the layers sort of dive down and come up and whatnot, which is very cool. She's doing some experimenting, so I'm sure she will include that in her upcoming class. But the glass clay is pretty cool stuff.
It's amazing stuff. Yeah, it's amazing. So the Mitsuru Hikame is like a wax that has this really beautiful organic quality to it that looks like a sumi brush, Japanese watercolor sort of work or ink work. And it really has that sort of like calligraphic sort of quality, but it also has sort of that brush stroke that's in the wax. And so it's very organic, really beautiful stuff. Most people that work with it make it themselves. But there is a company, Mitsuru Hikame, that does make it so you can buy like a chunk of it. And they're actually providing our students with a bonus when they order it. So if you are interested in going to their website and purchasing some wax from them, make sure to mention that you're a Little Metal Fox student or wannabe, and and let them know, order it, let them know that you're
immediately after you order it, email them and say the order number that I just purchased.
Yes,
I'm doing that for Little Metal Fox's class, and they will do what?
They will add an extra 30% of wax into your order. So they'll give you a bonus. So you've kind of got
more wax, same money.
Yeah, more wax, less money. The same amount of money.
Same money. Yeah.
But it's really cool. And so when the pieces are done, all that, organic,
all those beautiful lines, it just looks so, it's like grass or hair or seaweed or something. It has these beautiful lines in it. In the texture.
Look it up, people. It's awesome.
So Hikime.
Yeah.
Japanese.
So I'm to show people how to make the wax, how to adjust it, because and this is why a lot of people make their own, because they need to adjust it for their environment, because you may want it to be stiffer or softer depending on the time of year, or just your body heat or where you're working or your particular touch. You may be like, this is too stiff. Or I don't like the way this moves. I need something that's going to be stretchier. So a lot of people will adjust it to their particular need. And that's why, commercially available stuff is really limited because it's,
it's limited in the sense that there are not very many people who make Mitsudo wax for sale commercially because the need varies a lot, and most people who are using it make their own.
Right.
It's a great opportunity to try it without
Absolutely.
having to go through the hassle of figuring out how to make it. Just buy some and try it. And then if it's perfect for you, that's great. Then you don't have to make it. If it's a little this or a little that, then you can
Customize
tweak it a little bit. And Jennifer will show you how to make your own and how to tweak the recipe. So
Yeah. So I found a recipe that I
for
really
working with it too, because it's like, if you just kind of get your lump of wax, it looks like a lump of beeswax, right? And then you're like, okay, now what do I
the one that they sent looks like a little, like it was puffed out
soap or a chunk of beeswax.
Yeah, like a little chunk of soap kind of comes out of like a little, silicone mold. And when I make mine, I like to sort of like pour it out in sheets, so I have something I can kind of, pull from. And you can do that with the commercially available stuff. You warm it up, pour it out, and get it into the form that's going to be easiest for you to use. So, but I do like this wax a lot. And anytime I work with it, I'm like down the rabbit hole. And every little
you went down the rabbit hole of researching different recipes too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I have my recipe, but who else is making stuff? So,
So I've made it a few times, and it's, the first time you do it, if you don't know what you're doing, it's a mess. So the first time I did it, one of my students was like, let's make some, and I was like, okay. And so we kind of followed what we thought was the recipe for it, and the stuff was a disaster. It was sticky, and and at that point I didn't have any experience with it, and it was 30 years ago when I did that. And so since then I figured it out and worked with it enough to go,
this is what we offer you, is that she figured it out, so you don't have to start by making the sticky mess. You can start by making something that works.
30 years later, after investigating this thoroughly, after a while, I have the solution. But it's some good stuff, and I really do like working with it. And you can get a lot out of it, and if you mess a piece up or you don't like it, throw it into the pot and remelt it, and do it again.
Do it again.
So it's not wasted. Some of the wax, sometimes with carving wax, I'm like, no, I don't keep that stuff. It's so inexpensive, and it's really not worth keeping that stuff and remelting it down. So I usually will, just because it gets air in it when you remelt it, and it's not good stuff. So I usually just sweep that away. But with this stuff, I can put it right back into the pot, remelt it, and start all over again. So it's fun. I like it. I like melting it. It smells so good.
I know you keep, she goes on and on about how beautiful it smells because of the beeswax and the pine resin that's in it.
And it doesn't have, the pine resin that I'm using it doesn't have a strong odor to it. So the scent that I smell is mostly beeswax. And that smells yummy. So
exactly.
So it's beeswax, pine resin, and paraffin wax.
But you don't have to make your own. So if you're buying materials for the class, you could just buy some from the Mitsudo Hikime shop on Etsy. You could just buy some, and then take the class, and then try it and see if you like it. And if this is your rabbit hole, if you are the rabbit for this hole, and then you're like, I love this because it's so beautiful, then you can get the other ingredients after you've watch Jennifer show you how to do it, and you can make your own, or you can adapt the recipe if it needs to be a little more, or if you just want to experiment, right? Like, it's like, well, what would it be like if it was?
This is stuff that you can find easily locally. That's the whole thing about
the ingredients are.
The ingredients. It's all of the ingredients you can find locally, and some of them you can probably find in your backyard. So it's one of those things that it's like, and that's why it's been used not just in Japan, why it's not just a Japanese wax, but this kind of wax, this kind of recipe is used in multiple ways for a variety of things. And so it's been used in the desert south, or in not desert southwest primarily, but in parts of Mexico. It's used as, to create different beaded effects. It's been used in
as a substrate for under the beading.
yeah, for
Is
like
that right?
to adhere the beads to a surface. And repoussé and chasing, it's the basis for pitch. For bushcrafters, it's a type of glue that you can use. So there's like all kinds of different ways that you can sort of adjust this recipe using
Mhm.
the most basic stuff to create different things. But I've actually got, my neighbor has this huge old growth pine tree that's constantly producing resin. And so I'm like, excuse me, Rachel, can I have some of your resin? And she's like, oh, for God's sakes, please, all the resin you want, because it gets on the ground, it's super sticky and it just gets everywhere. And I'm like, thank you. And I'm like, getting her pine resin from her giant tree. At certain times of year, it's just like knobs of it coming off the tree. So
You showed me, it smells so good. It was, yeah.
yeah. And different pine trees have different kinds of, resin, and it smells a little bit different. I have one that's really perfumey and one that's more.
It's like the terroir of the Mitsuro Hikime wax, right? Because the beeswax is going to have a different flavor too, depending on where the bees are coming, getting their stuff from. So
yeah, it's true. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so it's really kind of interesting stuff, just for a variety of reasons. But yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Okay.
So yeah, so Mitsuro Hikime is coming up. Intro to Glass Clay is coming up. This weekend is puzzle fitting and chasing and stamping tools. So join us for both of those. They are a lot of fun. And if you want to take Jeff DeBoer's, if you want to watch the video of Jeff DeBoer's class, you're welcome to do that.
Good.
Just have to pay us to do that, but we'll put a link in the description for this video that so you can find it.
Yeah. So yeah. And lastly, I got a new tool, Julia.
Did you? Oh, you got one of the Taekwad things.
And the Taekwad from Lion Punch Forge. I love this thing. It's titanium and it's designed.
Bonus tool tip, people. Yes.
So it lays flat and is collapsible in that much space.
Nice.
So I love this idea because it is small, stays out of the way. You can do it like one side and set it up so you can use it on a little bit higher, so you can get under it with a torch a little bit better, which is awesome. You can also use it just as the tripod or the quad pod. So you can actually use it, just as is, without the top on it. But I gotta say, I was really impressed with this little guy. I know that, for some people that want to get up underneath their pieces, if they're small scale, for doing things like beads, that's why it has like the little hole, so you can set round things in there and it'll support them. If you're doing something, that's a little bit bigger or flat and you need to get, just a little bit of heat underneath it, you can turn it over like that. And that way you can get the heat underneath it a little bit better. But I like that it is, relatively low, that it's collapsible, that it's titanium, so it's not a great heat sink. And that's my biggest problem with like the tripods, is they are giant.
I know you hate the tripods because it's all steel and the screen is steel and it's like a giant heat sink. Yeah. So there you go, people. Bonus tool tip.
There you go.
My quad.
All right.
Sure. Well, I will see you next week.
Absolutely.
We switched our Tooltip Tuesdays to 11:30 on Tuesday so that I could come more because I work and I'm usually with a student at in the evening. Yeah. So now I can come too.
You can come too. Yay. And we will have Ian Weber from Lindstrom Tools is going to be joining us on October 31st for Tooltip Tuesday. We're going to be talking about cutters. So we're really excited.
Cutter horror stories.
Yes. Yeah. So Lindstrom Tools is working on a couple of new interactive like cutting needs. Like if I'm cutting a piece of silver and it's this gauge, what do I need to cut it with? So it has like interactive recommendation for wire cutters. I was like, well, that's brilliant.
It's not up. It's not live yet. They're working on it.
It's not. But they also are working on a PDF and we're going to have links to that later on. but he's going to help us sort of answer the question of, why do I need different wire cutters? What do they do? Why isn't this working? What happens if I do this, kind of thing. So yeah, so we're looking forward to Lindstrom Tools joining us on October 31st. So, but yeah, if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Make sure you click the like button, thumbs up, and let us know you're out there. If you have any questions, or if you want to let us know what your favorite type of brush is, what you're using in your studio. If you've got another solution, let us know. Put it in the comments below, and let us know what you think. Right?
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. And Julia, I will see you later on.